What are some trends in modern worship that you see is actually detrimental to the church?
I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm crying. My tears are coming down my face.
Oh, I'm gonna get killed for this.
Welcome everybody to episode 3 of Burning Questions. I have with me our worship pastor, Nathan Collins, in the hot seat. So if you don't know how this interview system works, we have in front of us 10 different spicy wings with a different sauce on each wing. We're gonna eat it, and then I'm gonna ask him a question, and we're steadily gonna be in more pain through the interview. So our pain is for your enjoyment. Here we go.
All right.
We're just gonna start this thing. Now, before we start eating, my pre-question, how are you with hot things? 10 being it's no problem, 1 being you're gonna be crying by wing 3.
I would say that I'm average.
Okay.
I don't think that I'm great, but it won't kill me to eat normal hot things.
Do you normally put hot sauce on different foods?
Yeah.
Or are you, okay, all right.
Yeah, but
We're gonna see where you start hurting then.
yeah, this
So-
is where
Mr. Collins, are you ready?
I am.
Let's grab the first wing. We're gonna take a bite, and then I
right.
will ask you our first question.
All right.
This is the classic sauce, and we are sitting at 1,700 Scoville units.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, Scoville units is how we measure the spiciness of each of these sauces, and we're gonna go from 1,700 to over 2 million. What is something about your wife, Anna, that you love that most people don't know about her?
Oh, wow. Okay, that most people don't know about her. She is incredibly funny, but the humor a lot of times comes out when she sings. At our house, she is the one who is singing all the time.
Really?
And I'm not the one who's singing. She is singing, I will come home, she's singing and holding kids and doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, this is great.
So,
because I
knowing
don't actually
that-
sing that much.
How soon can we expect Anna on stage leading worship?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get killed for this. We're never gonna see her.
Okay. All right.
I didn't
We
say,
love you,
I
Anna.
didn't
We're
say
sorry.
that it was good. I just said that it was singing.
That was spicier than the wing we just ate.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Go ahead and grab wing number 2
Ring
before
number
we get in
2.
trouble.
All right.
Island wings, a big jump, 5,500 Scoville units. Here's question number 2.
Okay.
Many people may not know this because you're very humble when you introduce a new worship song, but you have actually written a number of the songs that we sing on a regular basis. You even helped our previous worship pastor, Nate and Liz, write some of their songs, which I thought was really cool. You have written Our God, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, and The Wonder of His Love, to name a few that we sing. So when you sit down to write a worship song, what is your goal for the song, for those that are going to sing it? What's in your head when you're writing a song?
Well, the first thing is that it's biblically based, of course. It
Yeah.
has to have a direct line to Scripture that's obvious. And it needs to be something that is congregationally conducive, so it can't be like something that you'd want maybe a special music. I just don't think, I feel like we have 25 minutes or so to worship together collectively, and I think the best use of time is for something that we all can engage in versus sit and just listen to.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 first things. And then singability, and a lot of times I'll come up with something and I don't think it's gonna work. And so
Okay.
I think that that's the other thing that I think about is, does it actually work? Just because God's putting something on my heart doesn't mean that creatively it came out and it's like,
Yeah.
I think this will land well. So I try to only bring the ones that I think have a potential to land.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, then I have no problem getting rid of them.
I've just loved that when you introduce one of those songs, to my knowledge, my memory, you haven't said like, here's my song, like here's what I've written. And I love that you don't need the credit. You're just like, this is a beautiful song. It's from my heart, from the Lord, and we're just going to sing. And I love that. So
Thanks.
Kudos to you, friend.
Thank you.
Wing number 3, let's go for it. This
All
one
right.
right here is Mezcaline. Question number 3, what are some trends in modern worship that you see is actually detrimental to the church as we sing together, as we worship together on a Sunday?
2. The first is that the songs, sometimes I think that songs are about what God can do for me. And it isn't necessarily worship. It's a truth that we can all agree on, but it's not a worship song, in my opinion. And I think, kind of back to what I said before about we only have a select amount of time together it's a special time together, and I think that we should worship the Lord versus sometimes just sing a truth that maybe is missing some of the reverence that maybe it could have.
Sure.
And the second is that sometimes I think that songs have a great message, but they're not a congregationally conducive song.
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes is a challenge. And I make I try not to make the first mistake ever, but there's probably times where I might select a song and it's like, does it really work for everyone to sing collectively? Because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Those are good. Let's go for wing number 4, cruising right along. You feeling okay so far?
I feel fine so far, but as soon as you start to become a tough guy,
I know.
you get into these next few.
Number 4, Los Calientes Verde, 36,000 Scoville units, so pretty big jump. And question number 4, a lot of people don't know this, but you spent a number of years in Europe. So what drew you to Europe, and then what's one of your favorite memories from your time over there?
Well, what drew me to Europe was when I was a little kid, we ate specific food. My parents had lived in France before I was born. In fact, my mom was pregnant with me the last year that they were in France. My dad was playing professional basketball and then was a coach in France. And so I was born in the U.S., but growing up, I would always hear stories and things like that about my parents' wonderful time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, after college, I just kind of wanted to go somewhere, and I didn't know where. And I was praying, that God would take me to Spain or something like this. And he opened up a door in Honduras. And I'm like, this is not where I want to go. But God opened a door there, and so I went. And so I've always been fascinated with culture and food, and I'm an inquisitive person. So I really enjoy different thoughts and cultures, and especially food. So that's really it.
And then, but when you went to Europe, that was for basketball?
Both. I went to be a basketball coach. The first time, it's a very long story, but I met a missionary who had an international church and said, I play the guitar if you need anybody to help, but many of our games were on Sundays, so I didn't make it. So fast forward a few years, I'm back home again, and this guy's like, do you know anybody who would want to run this big worship thing that we do every 2 weeks based in Denmark? And I said, well, I don't know of anybody except for maybe I would. What's the deal? So God opened a door, and I ended up going back again for a number of years. And
what's one of your favorite memories, either from coaching or just living in Europe?
The pace of life I really like. There is a sense of urgency that I think is great. I think it helps make America what it is, but there's a less sense of urgency and a slower pace of life, which is nice. And also, there's a lot of unique creativity and outlets for that I think are just interesting to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's go to wing 5. You made it halfway with this guy. This right here is the 7th Reaper, 59,000 Scoville units, and here is your question. What did you learn from coaching basketball that you have now applied as you lead worship?
Oh, so many things. So the first thing, you're laughing at me, that's hot.
That one got me a little bit, but
okay.
That stung.
So the first thing is it's a team. That's the first thing. Secondly, we're in roles. And what I mean by team is that we're collectively working together, and it does not function without everybody. And then, trying to be a servant to your teammates and a servant to the goal, to the purpose of what you're doing. Everything that I do, I see, if I take a step back, it's channeled through the lens of either basketball coaching or being on a basketball team. As you know, my dad was a basketball coach, so.
Are you ready for wing 6?
I think so.
Here we go. This and 7 have an aftershock that just hurts, so prepare yourself. Question number 6, Mr. Nate. What did you learn from your dad, or what do you love about your dad that you've now applied to raising your 3 boys?
A love of God. That's first. A love for them. And how my dad is wired, I have some of the same wiring, but there's a pursuit of excellence in everything, and I always would hear him when I was a young kid talking to like players on the phone, or maybe a parent's a parent of a player.
Yeah.
And then he would hang up the phone and something to the extent of this person's living in a dream world. They think they're going to the NBA or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
So I'm not crying, I promise. It's just hot.
I know, this one's getting me. I'm starting to sweat a little bit.
So I think those things. There's probably something that I'm missing too, but I just can't think of it.
No, that's great. All right.
How
So-
are you holding up, by the way?
I'm doing okay. My tongue's starting to hurt a little bit, but you just got to keep pushing through. If we spend too much time, it's just going to get worse.
Does this help from the experience?
Oh, you want to take your Pepto shot already?
Sure. Oh, okay.
Watch
if
out.
If I shouldn't, I'm going to try.
You're going to need it after 8. I'll wait with you for 8.
Try some sugar water.
This is wing number 7. This is Turfing's Curse, 99,000 Scoville units. Wow. Ready?
Are you eating the whole thing, or are you just eating a piece?
I'm going about half, but I douse these things in sauce. I made a mistake. Question number 7. Could you briefly, because I know that there's a lot in this, but compare and contrast the church in Europe to the church in America. What can we learn from each other? Let's just stick to the positive. What could we learn in America from your time in the church in Europe?
You know, I feel like I'm still waiting for this one. When it hits me, you'll know it. But I think that from my experience, the European church, and again, I have a narrow understanding because I was only really in 2 different countries. Luxembourg, I was tied into a church, and then in Denmark, I was tied in church for a substantial amount of time. But they have a certain level of grace that translates differently in real time. It's sort of hard to explain.
Yeah.
But there's a certain graciousness that I think people are willing to extend. I don't want to say that they're more welcome with big things that are troublesome in their life, but I feel like in some areas there might be something that we could learn about letting people know that you come as you are. You come as you are to Christ. You come as you are to church.
Yeah.
Because this is a place where we know that the presence of God is here. So I feel like that we do that, or that they do that well. What I feel like they could learn from us is a certain... I feel like at least the churches, thankfully, that I've been able to be in, we're very steadfast, and we don't waver. We don't waver from truth. We don't waver.
Yeah.
I love this church so much. I love what is taught from the pulpit by Mark. It's God's word, and God's word is pretty clear on so many things, and I just love the way that we say, this is what we're after. We're after trying to be disciples of Christ, and I think that the European church, from my experience, could take some more of that, and I think that they would find themselves as working better to be better disciples.
Very cool. All right, I just got to prep you. This one is so painful. This is wing 8. This one is the bomb evolution. So if you're going whole wing, I'm going whole wing on this.
I'll do a whole wing. Just why not?
Yeah. Prep yourself. I'm just going to go for it. Ready?
Okay, man, you put a lot of sauce on
I
this
know.
too. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, man. How you doing? It just hits so hard. All right, here we go. Wing 8, question 8. Choosing worship. Wow. Oh, wow. Did it get you? It's in my nose.
You know, try the sugar water. It's quite refreshing.
Oh. All right, I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going Pepto. Choosing worship for a church our size of around 1,500 members cannot be easy because our worship taste is very, very different.
Yeah.
And you've talked a lot about choosing worship styles, different songs from different ages is hard, but it's not just slapping 4 or 5 songs together.
Right.
You work really hard. Holy smokes. You work really hard at building the entire service and giving a message that comes through clearly. So what do you do to set up our whole service? Wow. Knock yourself out.
Well, I try. If it's working or not, that's a question to...
You're handling this really well. How? Oh, I handle spicy things not too well.
I did a prayer
Please.
walk for like 2 hours this morning thinking about this. I was in the Word for another hour. Well, the problem is, Tyler, I ate this on the right side of my face, on the right side of my mouth, so now the right side of my face is basically numb.
Yeah.
So what do I think about? Was that the question?
I don't know anymore. Say whatever you want.
Okay, so I'm thinking I'm trying to I use this example. Anybody who's talked with me has heard this a million times, but it's the only one that I can think of that makes the most sense. Is I'm trying to cast the largest net that's possible, knowing that the net doesn't cover the whole sanctuary.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do the best I can to have lyrical substance that is nutritious lyrically, meaning it's biblically based. I'm trying to make it enticing for people, leave space for people to join in without ordering them to sing.
Yeah.
And also knowing that in a congregation our size, there's people that are struggling, there's people probably that are rock bottom, there's also people that are on top of the mountain. So you're never going to capture everything. So try to get a cross section of, do the best that I can to capture a little bit of everything. And then also from a creative aspect to try to stay relevant, meaning, it's art. So it's hard because somebody would look at one painting and go, that's beautiful, it's genius. And somebody else would go, that looks like my kid did that. I don't understand what that is. So knowing that there's that. But
you must really love our church because you're tearing up. This must really just affect you at a
I
deep
love this
emotional
place.
level.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was really, really hot.
More Pepto.
I didn't know that my teeth could get hot.
Right? I tell everyone, like, wing 8 hits me in my hands. Like, I'm
I'm
All
ready.
right, grab wing 9.
All right, here we go.
This one is 666,000. It's not even fun anymore.
I'm waiting.
All right, so you told me this, so I stole this from you. Here you go.
I'm enjoying watching you.
It's so bad. So you hate the phrase worship gig.
Oh, I hate that.
Why do you hate the phrase worship gig? Go for it.
I'm convinced worship should not be a gig. It's not. You're not performing. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, people say it all the time. But my team, we're there to serve the people. Period.
So gig just seems selfish to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to eliminate distractions to keep people's attention focused the best that I can, knowing that you're never going to win in every area, but just doing the best that I can to try to just serve the people and say, hey, we've got a few minutes collectively. You might be feeling great. You might be totally devastated. Your husband might have passed away last week. I don't know. And this is not a gig. This is not what we're doing. So to say that, I think, is just really flippant. So
don't call it a worship gig.
Yeah.
If you do, you're already on his bad side.
I must say that that our worship team share the same heart that I have for worship, so they do not view it as a gig. I want to be really clear about that.
We have the best worship leaders ever.
I'm so pleased and blessed. Really, it's an absolute blessing.
All right, so real quick, number 10.
Number 10.
Let's go for it, and we'll give you the last question. 2 million Scoville units. Why? That's just gross.
Yeah, that one's hot.
Oh, my throat's on fire. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. See,
You're handling this really well, and I don't like it.
Well, one time I made the disaster of taking a spoonful of a red sauce that was on my mother-in-law's table. And I don't know what was in that, but that was hot.
Just pure evil is what it was, because that's just
this
horrible.
is hot too, but that was
all right.
That was death. This is close.
You get to bless a young person. So here's question 10. For someone younger that wants to be a worship leader, how would you encourage them right now? What would you tell them they need to develop in themselves to be successful later? Young worship leaders, look at any of the cameras, go for it, bless them.
I would say, trust the Lord with all your heart. If you feel like you're called to do it, then live into that. Remember that the lyrical content is first and that our job is to serve the people. Give them a chance to encounter Christ. Become as skilled at your instrument or your craft as you can so that you can take people on a journey that's not so narrow, but you can take them creatively to a place where someone might grab onto something. A lot of people have a handicap where it has to be the music first that grabs them, and then secondly, then they understand the lyrical content. Maybe somebody else's handicap is that they don't get the lyrics. But, and then lastly, man, what would I say? Lastly, remain humble and remember that it's not about you, because then the criticism that comes if the lyrical content is biblical based, and your disposition on stage is that of humility, that you're somewhat staying as invisible as possible, the only thing that people can criticize is the creative artistic element, and that's going to change the next song, and hopefully you can attract them there.
Right.
So that's what I would say.
All right. Thank you for hanging in with us. Thank you, Nate. You're amazing. Bonus question. What worship album are you nerding out to lately that's just worshiping or meant like blessing your heart right now? What do they need to end this and then go listen to? Oh.
Well, there's a song by Tommy Walker that the first line says, "Lord, I surrender to your strong and faithful hand." Mm-hmm. And lately that song has been important because I just love the idea of surrendering. I love what John says, you know, the person who comes after me, I'm not even worthy to unbuckle his sandal. Like to come to the Lord with that reverence, that amount of reverence, and to sing, I surrender to that living God. That's awesome.
I love it.
So,
dude, you're the man. Thanks. Woo! Love you guys.
That was hot.
See you next month. We're out of here.
Seriously?
Pounded every single not good.
You pounded every single one, too.
You ate the whole thing.
Yeah.
And remained virtually unaffected.
Yeah, that's stupid.